Snow Go Duncan. Written and told by Kiefer Adams. The island of Sodor was in the deep grips of winter. The little engines of the hills were hit hard the most. Heavy snow fell during the night, and Mr. Percival, the Fin controller, was worried. Luckily, an order had been made for the little engines to wear snowploughs. Rusty, the little diesel, was in charge of clearing the line as best he could, but he was nervous. "We've never used snowploughs before," he whispered to himself. "I hope we'll manage with them." Rusty's suspicions grew when the snowploughs were delivered. The little engines fussed and groaned when the snowploughs were being fitted. Rheneas grumbled most of all. "How the engines on the Fat Controller's railway could rear these things, I'll never know," he huffed. "I know you don't like it for now," said Skarloey, "but it's the best we can do in this situation." "You should hear Duncan going about his snowplough," huffed Rheneas. "To hear him talk, it's like he wore it as a punishment." Skarloey sighed as Rheneas fussed away with his new snowplough. Deep down in his mind, Skarloey knew that Duncan would complain of just about anything, come rain, shine, or in this case, winter. At first, Duncan didn't mind the extra work, but soon the weight of his new snowplough took its toll. Duncan rocked and rolled so much that he almost shook the plough loose, much to the annoyance of his driver and fireman. "Don't you go copying Thomas now," the driver scolded. "Otherwise you'll rock and roll right off the rails." "Been there, done that," puffed Duncan. Eventually Duncan did manage to damage his snowplough. The bolts that connected Duncan to his snowplough had been shaken loose when they passed through the lake. Duncan was pleased and hoped he could go the rest of the winter without a snowplough. "You poor engines," Duncan boasted that evening. "You'll have to shove around those silly ploughs while I have the freedom on my buffers." "Your complaining is starting to get on my wick," snapped Sir Handel. "I'll complain as much as I want," huffed Duncan. "I enjoyed doing it in the factory where I came from, and now I can enjoy it here. You engines didn't understand that I do a lot more work than any of you put together." "Well, why don't you try bashing through the snow without a plough tomorrow and see how cocky you are then?" snorted Sir Handel. Duncan gritted his teeth. "I'll show you," he scowled. "Tomorrow I'm at the incline railway with Skarloey. I'll show you how to push and to lift aside without a plough." The little engines rolled their eyes, but before they could say anything else, Duncan had already gone to sleep. The next morning, Duncan and Skarloey worked hard on the incline railway. Duncan was waiting for the right time to strike. Ahead, he noticed that a snowbank had been set up behind some buffers to stop runaway trucks from falling into the ravine. Skarloey had cautioned Duncan to be careful, but as the case might be, Duncan was already showing off and performing dangerously. Duncan had brought 2 empty trucks ready to take to the incline. He watched the snowbank from a distance. "Just you watch this, Skarloey," he boasted. "I'll show that Sir Handel what we can do without a plough." "Don't you dare!" roared Skarloey, but it was too late. Duncan gave a sharp blast of his whistle and charged towards the bank. "Stop, Duncan!" wailed Skarloey. But Duncan didn't. The bank came closer and closer, and even the trucks saw their chance. On! They wailed. Duncan couldn't stop in time and slammed on the brakes as hard as he could. But it was too late. Duncan hit the bank with a loud crash, bursting the buffers in the process. Luckily no one was hurt, but Duncan was up to his buffers in cold white snow. Duncan sat in the snow feeling rather miserable. His cheeks were soon a rosy pink when Rusty arrived to clear the mess. Mr. Percival was on board. "Well, Duncan," he said sharply, "you wanted to prove something to Sir Handel, and you've certainly done that. You have shown him why we need snowploughs for this weather." "Yes, sir," muttered Duncan meekly. "Furthermore," continued Mr. Percival, "I've been informed by your crew that the bolts from your snowplough were shaken loose. I have managed to acquire new ones, and you will spend the rest of the winter with your plough until the snow has melted. Do I make myself clear?" Clearly transparent, sir," Duncan stuttered. "Very well," said Mr. Percival. "Maybe next time you will learn that winter is not a time to muck about." He turned and walked sharply away. "Never mind, Duncan," comforted Rusty. "At least it wasn't a snow go." Duncan didn't say a word. He had a lot to think about on the subject of snowploughs.